Welcome to episode 1 of the Polarity Fitness cutting series. So you guys have probably been watching my bulking series over the past months, and you're probably thinking like, damn Rio, this is some exciting shit. What new shiny objects are you gonna reveal to us? What haven't you touched on yet? What's gonna change? The non-sexy answer is almost fuck all, guys. That's the truth, because one of the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to the transition from bulking to cutting is that they think their training routine has to change. They think that the training program, the exercise is there to facilitate fat loss, when in reality, your training exists to maintain your muscle mass. It's to maintain your strength and your muscle mass as you strip down body fat. The diet, the calorie deficit is what takes care of the fat loss. And so many people, they transition to a cut and all of a sudden they increase the volume. They start doing light weights for tons of reps. They start doing a ton of cardio. They start training more frequently, and they end up looking much worse at the end of their cut than they did at the beginning, because they treated training and exercise as the mechanism that creates the fat loss, when in reality, your diet is what takes care of that. When you're cutting, your primary goal with regards to your training routine is to fight like a motherfucker to maintain your strength. Maintaining your strength in the gym on your lifts is what helps you maintain your muscle mass as you strip down body fat. Because here's the issue, guys. So many people pursue fat loss and cuts, and all they want to do is lose weight. And I fell victim to this when I was beginning my fitness journey. And what happens is that they lose 15, 20 pounds, and at least half of that comes from muscle mass. And then they end up with a skinny fat physique. They end up looking much worse than when they started. So the training routine doesn't really change. Mostly what you guys are gonna be seeing is changes with regards to diet. And even then, it's not that much different. It comes down to pulling out adding little quantities of calories, taking away little quantities of calories. Because again, what creates fat loss is the calorie deficit. So you guys know how, when it comes to training, when it comes to building your physique, I really impress upon you the importance of getting strong, progressive overload. That's the foundational principle. That is the lifeblood of your physique progress. It's getting stronger. That's all that really matters. Transitioning to fat loss, what really matters when it comes to fat loss, like that foundational principle, the equivalent of progressive overload, is the calorie deficit. Everything's about the calorie deficit. Fat loss comes down to finding the easiest, simplest, most enjoyable, most sustainable way to eat in a calorie deficit day after day until you lose the body fat that you want to lose. The truth is, guys, before I ever got into muscle building, strength training, I was obsessed with fat loss. I was obsessed with cutting, and this actually ended up being detrimental for me early on in my fitness journey, because I was so focused on fat loss when I really should have been focused on muscle building. And that's why I really impress upon you guys to focus on bulking. And even now that I'm, quite happy with my level of muscle development, obviously I'm still working on gaining strength because I'm still not at my potential. The most important thing to always keep in mind is that the majority of your year should always still be dedicated towards muscle building, because muscle building takes much longer. It's a much longer process, and fat loss, quite frankly, takes very little time. And I've been cutting for not even a week now, and I'm already down a few pounds. Obviously that comes down to water weight, but it just goes to show you that when it comes to cutting, you don't need very long to cut if you're staying within striking distance of your goal body fat. So one of the most important things I learned is that when you're bulking, while it's important to gain a tiny bit of body fat, you always want to stay within striking distance of your goal leanness, which means that you never want to have to cut longer than 2 to 3 months. You should only ever have to do one significant fat loss period if you're starting your journey overweight. And that's, full disclosure, I've fucked that up many times, because, I've gone through periods of time where I actually bulked a little bit too hard, and then I ended up having to cut a little bit longer, but it's usually never longer than 3 months, man. And what I like to do is I used to do like March, April, May, and then I would dedicate that to cutting, but now I like to do more like April, May, June, just so that, I'm getting very lean by the time summer hits and my shirt's coming off a little bit more. And the thing is, I live in Canada, I live in Ottawa, Ontario, where at least 6 months of the year the weather's dog shit, my shirt's not coming off, right? So it makes sense to be a little bit bigger to fill out your clothes. The truth is, most people prioritize cutting way too soon, and that's why I always push guys into the route of muscle building, because the physique that you want is on the other side of having paid your dues when it comes to bulking. Muscle building, with full honesty, is a very long process when you're drug free. A lot of guys don't have the patience, and the longer you prolong paying your dues, the longer you wait to put in that time where you're bulking, you may not be necessarily 100% happy with your shirtless physique. The more you prolong that process, the longer it's going to take for you to get to your goal physique. And that's why the first few years should be really dedicated towards muscle building. And if you're going to cut, keep the cuts very, very short. And over the years, I've really cracked the code to easy fat loss, easy and quick fat loss. And it actually requires a lot less work than most people think. Most people, again, they think they need to up the volume, up the training frequency, start working their asses off to burn the fat. But at the end of the day, it comes down to finding easiest way for you to maintain a calorie deficit. So mostly the changes that you're gonna be seeing in these vlogs are me showing you more my dieting mentalities, my cutting hacks, how I structure my diet, what foods I eat, how I ensure that I'm in that calorie deficit every single day. But with regards to training, very little changes. I'm pretty much gonna be hitting the same exact workout routines, which you guys will be seeing. I'm gonna show you guys a quick little workout vlog after this. The only thing that can really change, and this depends person to person, is that you can reduce the volume even more. Like the traditional Polarity Fitness routines, 2 workouts per week, 5 exercises per workout, couple sets each, right? That's the core of the Polarity Fitness philosophy. You can do even less when it comes to cutting and maintaining your strength, because really you can actually maintain your physique on like a third of the work that you did to build it. So you can use very low volume routines that are purely focused on maintaining your strength on the compound lifts, which I'll be showing you guys right now. So we'll transition over to the voiceover and get into the workout. So I'm starting my workout off here with the barbell back squats. And yes, you guys are seeing this correctly. I'm doing barbell back squats pain-free for the first time in months. So it turns out going to Mexico for a couple weeks worked absolute wonders for my knees. The heat worked wonders for reducing my knee inflammation. So hopefully I'm gonna be able to continue squatting on a weekly basis. I'm not getting my hopes up because this knee shit is very unpredictable. But this was 275 for 7 reps. So I didn't wanna go too heavy. You know, before I stopped squatting, I was up to doing like 340 pounds for 6 reps. So I was getting really, really strong on my squats, but you know, you never want to jump right back into the weights you're using before. If you take a break from an exercise, you always want to start light, build your way back up over time to avoid injuring yourself and to avoid, you know, pretty much putting your gains to a halt very quickly, because if you start too heavy, you quickly run into a bump. So you always want to give yourself, you know, some time to build momentum by starting lighter. So yeah, that was 275 for 7 reps, and then I rested about 5 minutes, dropped the weight down to 245, and I'm going for a set of, you know, 9 reps here. So this is using the Polarity training style, which is a heavy set followed by a lighter set. So the way it works is that you warm up to a very heavy set, an all-out set in the 6 to 8 rep range, and then you rest 3 to 5 minutes, you reduce the weight by 10 to 20%, and then you go for another set in the 8 to 10 rep range or the 10 to 12 rep range. So it's basically a top set followed by a lighter set. So this was, again, 245 for 9 reps. If you guys are not squatting in your routine, man, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Squats, barbell back squats are the most productive exercise you can do in the gym. When I'm not squatting in my routine, I'm depressed, man. I'm depressed. There's really no exercise that's done more for my physique than barbell back squats. It's the best full body exercise in the universe. And if you're not exploiting squats to the fullest, then you're leaving a ton of gains on the table, quite frankly. So now I'm getting into some weighted chin-ups here. This is 80 pounds attached for 6 reps. So I basically did a weight reset here while I was in Mexico. So a weight reset is one of the tactics I deploy when I hit a strength plateau. So I plateaued on my weighted chin-ups at around 90 or 92.5 pounds attached. So after consulting your sleep, your nutrition, making sure you're eating enough, the first step to take when you hit a strength plateau is to take some weight off the bar or the belt, and then over the span of 3 to 4 weeks, work your way back up to where you were before, and usually you'll cross over into new weight territory. If that doesn't work, then you completely rotate the exercise for something different along the same movement pattern, right? So that's a very effective strategy I use to break through strength plateaus. This is the back down set. This is the lighter set. I have 45 pounds between my legs, and this is, I'm pretty sure, 10 reps. Now I'm getting into some seated dumbbell overhead press. These are 85s in each hand, and I got 5 reps here on the heavy set. So funny story here, guys. I should have gotten more reps here, but right before this set, I basically fucked up the incline on the bench, and I put the bench at 90 degrees, which I absolutely hate for seated dumbbell overhead press. I like to stick to 80 degrees. It's a way more natural pressing angle. It feels much better. It's not awkward, which is what you're seeing here. But before I hit that first heavy set there, I essentially did it at a 90-degree angle, and I only got a few reps. So that basically drained me, and I was like, okay, I gotta attempt this set again. So yeah, that's why I only ended up getting 5 reps on that first set. Probably should have gotten like, 7, 8 reps, but it's whatever, man. We'll get it next time. So that was 75s in each hand for I believe that was 9 reps. So pretty much everything here is done with a top set, back down set style. That's what I call the Polarity training style, and it's super, super effective. So the main difference really between bulking and cutting when it comes to training is that I pretty much almost exclusively use the Polarity training style for a couple reasons. Number one is the psychological relief. And then number 2 is to accommodate the intensity drop off that is very common of workouts when you're cutting. So when you're cutting, guys, the number 1 goal is to train as intensely as possible. It's to maintain your strength. Training intensely is so important when you're cutting because that's how you're going to maintain your muscle mass, right? But the thing is that there's a natural intensity drop off. There's a reduction of intensity throughout your workout when you're cutting because you're in an energy deficit. It becomes very hard to train intensely, especially the deeper you get into your cut. So to accommodate that sort of intensity drop off, the top set, back down set style works very, very effectively. Throughout my bulk, I was using some straight sets across on various exercises just because it eliminates the need to do math. And when you're bulking, a lot of times you have the energy, you have the psychological power to just do a couple sets with the same weight. Because at the end of the day, guys, when it comes to building muscle, there's no difference between doing straight sets across and the Polarity training style. There's really no difference. What builds muscle is striving for progression. It's hitting quality sets where there's lots of tension placed on the muscle that you're trying to work. That's what counts, right? Whether you're doing the straight sets across or the Polarity training style, it doesn't really matter that much, right? The reason that it's so effective is, again, because of that psychological relief, knowing you just have to do that 1 heavy set, and then you can take some weight off the bar, and then also to accommodate that performance drop off, because a lot of times you hit that heavy set and then you almost have to take weight off the bar again for the second set, whereas when you're bulking, a lot of times you can hit another set with the same weight. So these are some neck curls. This is a 55-pound neck curls, guys. My neck is getting strong as shit. So one of the biggest mistakes guys make is that they don't train their neck when they're cutting, okay? The neck is the first place that gets really, really skinny when you're cutting, so make sure you're throwing in a couple sets of neck curls each week to avoid looking absolutely scrawny by the time you get to your goal body fat percentage. So it's super, super important. If you want to have a good looking physique when you get lean, train your neck because it's going to get skinny, especially the deeper you get into your cut.